everyone. We would like to introduce our assembly candidates. We will start with Oscar Ortiz, Obeso-Martinez, and Tomas Oliva. You can now clap. Again, I would like to remind everybody that the California State Assembly District 36 represents our communities in Sacramento, carrying our voice on education, housing, water, the economy, and so much more. We have these three candidates here, and each of them will have 2 minutes for their introduction. We will start with Oscar Ortiz.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Oscar Ortiz. I'm a council member and former mayor in the city of Indio, where I've been serving my community for the past 7 years. I'm originally from Mexicali. I grew up in the city of Indio. I did well in our public schools, and I was accepted into Stanford University, where I graduated with my degree in chemistry in 2012. I'm now a deputy director of a local nonprofit where I focus on environmental education. In 2018, I was elected as the youngest council member in the history of the city of Indio at 28 years old, and I've spent the past 7 years focusing on improving the lives of our working families and changing a conservative, anti-immigrant council to the more progressive and inclusive city that we see today, with one of the fastest growing economies in Southern California. Some of the success stories I have serving in Indio: one, bringing back our downtown for the first time in 40 years in collaboration with local small businesses. 2, expanding affordable housing, over 1,000 affordable units approved for development, and we've gained one of the first pro-housing designations in the state. 3, building a strong partnership between public safety and social services to more effectively deal with the issues of crime, homelessness, mental health, and drug addiction. And also building the infrastructure we need for the future, including 3 new public safety buildings, bridge improvements, park improvements, and a new city hall and library. At the state level, I hope to use my experience in local government, as well as my science background, to provide innovative solutions focusing on affordability in housing, energy, and healthcare, improving our public education, and continuing the focus on a strong partnership between our public safety and social services so we can deal with the root causes of the issues that we're seeing throughout our communities. And with that, I just want to thank you for being here with us today. And again, my name is Oscar Ortiz, running for State Assembly in District 36. Thank you.
Withhold your applause until the end of the session. Thank you.
Hi. Everybody can hear me okay? Good evening, and thank you for being here. My name is Dr. Obeso-Martinez. I'm a proud daughter of the Imperial County, a mother, a nurse, and the current mayor for the community I call home for my entire life, the city of Imperial. I decided to run for state assembly because the communities of Imperial County and the eastern Coachella Valley deserve a stronger voice in Sacramento. For too long, families in our region have struggled with rising costs, limited access to health care, and the feeling that our desert communities are often overlooked when decisions are being made. As a doctor of nursing practice, I've spent my career on the front lines of healthcare. I've seen firsthand how access to care can make the difference between stability and crises for families. That experience has reshaped and continues to shape how I will fight for in Sacramento. Affordable health care, because no one should have to choose between groceries and medicine. As mayor, I've had the responsibility of bringing people together to solve our problems locally. Under my leadership, the city of Imperial secured the state support to build a new home for our police department that will allow growth and ensure our officers have the space and resources that they need to serve our community effectively. But our work does not stop there. I'm running because I believe we must invest in strong schools and job opportunities so our kids can dream big and thrive here and continue to live here, right here in this home, in what we call Imperial County. We also need to address the rising costs of living by expanding housing and investing in infrastructure that prepares our valley for the future. If elected, I would be the first woman to represent this district in nearly 3 decades. And I would bring the perspective of a mother, a healthcare professional, and a lifelong resident to the region of Sacramento. I look forward to building this momentum with you and look forward to hearing more from our constituents and look forward for you voting for me at the State Assembly. Thank you.
Tomas, Oliva?
All right. Thank you to everyone. I want to thank the hosts, the Democratic Central Committee and Democrats United of Imperial Valley for putting this forum together. And I want to thank everyone here that made time to listen to the candidates that are running. My name is Tomas Oliva, and I'm running for State Assembly to not only represent you, but to work for you in Sacramento. This district is in serious need of help. And like many of you, I had to leave the Valley in order to get an education. So I had to go to San Diego to get my bachelor's and to get my master's. And like many of you, you hope for your family members to come back once they've achieved their educational goals. This district also desperately needs better health care. I, like many of you, rely on the healthcare systems that we have here and know that it is not up to the standards that we would like to see for ourselves and for our families. But yet this community depends on it. And that's why when I was on city council and mayor of the city of El Centro, I put all of you first and made sure that I fought to save our healthcare district and our hospital in El Centro. Like many of you, I live here. I breathe the same air that you do. I drink the same water. I pay close to the $6 gallons of gasoline that many of us do. As I look out into this crowd, I see neighbors, I see business owners, I see former students, and I know that many of us agree that affordability here in this district has gotten out of control. It's become very difficult to achieve the American dream and to remain here in California. Our campaign is about access, it's about advocacy, and more importantly, it's about affordability. So I look forward to the questions of the conversation tonight, my colleagues up here, and I thank you all for the opportunity to speak to you all. My name is Tomas Oliva, and I hope to represent you in Sacramento. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tomas. We're gonna ask you we're gonna move on to the first prepared question. And our first responder is gonna be Ida, no pun intended. Okay, wait, sorry, that you're not a first responder, you're a doctor, I forget.
Nurse practitioner.
Yeah, nurse practitioner. But the first subject we're gonna cover is economy and cost of living. So the first question is, and each of you will have 3 minutes to answer. Imperial County contributes billions in agricultural production and renewable energy. And yet many families here struggle with wages, housing costs, and economic opportunity. What specific state policies would you push for to ensure that economic growth in Imperial County translates into better jobs and a higher living standard for residents?
Ready? Okay. Let me start off by saying this. Our economy should work for the people that live here, just not the companies who are trying to pass through and use our resources. Right now in Imperial County, we have many hardworking families, people who reside here who are doing everything right, but yet are still struggling to get ahead. At the same time, we're seeing major industries, IRA region, for energy, for our logistics, and also our data center. Opportunity is coming, but we need to also question, like, who's gonna benefit for these opportunities? As your representative, I would fight to make sure that this growth translates to good paying local jobs, not temporary work or outside hires. That means requiring local hire agreements, investing in our career, technology, education, and workforce training. That means that we need to partner with our community college to make sure that we have programs that prepare us and make us eligible for jobs here locally to be first in line for those jobs. We also have to address the affordability, because economic growth means nothing if our families cannot afford housing, healthcare, or the basic necessities. As a nurse, I'm often encountered, I've seen close to 30 patients a day. We talk about how can you afford your medication? How can you put groceries on the table? These are conversations I have every day with my patients. And I will fight in Sacramento to help resolve these issues. We need somebody who knows the healthcare system, who's a wife, who's a mother, who has kids in college as well, who knows what we need for this community. We can grow our economy, but we need to do it in a way that uplifts our people and not leaves them behind, and make sure that we are doing the work, the forest development here locally, and partnering with our community colleges. Thank you.
Tomas?
Yes, as it relates to the economy and the cost of living, I love the way the question was written, because it highlighted just the billions of dollars that exist in the agricultural community, but that doesn't include everyone. So we like to talk about and pat ourselves in the back of how great the economy is here for agriculture but the rest of us are not either farm workers or farmers, right? So many of us grow up feeling like those numbers don't speak to us or don't include us. So what do we need to do in Sacramento? Healthcare, I think, is a huge pillar of our community. Without healthcare, everything else can be in place, but when we get sick, that's it, right? So I think first and foremost, we need to advocate to strengthen our healthcare system here in Imperial County and throughout the entire district. As many of you know, we have hospitals in the 36 that were on the brink of closure or still are to this day, right? So what we need to do is advocate for higher reimbursement rates for government insurers. We need to make sure that we're giving and investing our hospitals to making sure that they are able to provide the services that you and I need, that would not force us to have to drive to San Diego, not force us to have to drive to Palm Springs so that our families could be cured. Why am I bringing this up? It's because if you are at your healthiest, you will be at your best ability to be able to work and earn the money that you need to provide for your families. Now, when it comes to the jobs, part of the job of being in the state assembly is to vote on the budget and advocate that monies are being allocated to our local schools. That means K through 12, that means preschool, but it also means higher education. So it means investing in extension campuses, which the 36th district has a lot of, but they are dependent on the funding from the state assembly to make sure that our students don't have to leave the region in order to attain their educational goals. Having great education and having great healthcare are what industries look for to decide whether or not they're going to invest in our communities and open up businesses and open up jobs. I think that's a pillar. It's crucial for them to then decide to locate here. So we need to work with our local schools, IVC, San Diego State, to make sure that they incorporate workforce development, economic development practices, certifications, right? And we need to diversify our industries in the 36th district so that it's not just agriculture, but it could be tourism, it could be manufacturing, it could be many other things that help white collar and blue collar workers. Thank you.
Thank you, and Oscar?
Thank you. Sure. I think two of the costs that really are burdening our communities are housing and healthcare. And for housing, you know, the immediate solution we found is subsidized housing. But in the long term, it's not a long-term solution, right? When we look at apartments, affordable apartments that are costing $500,000 to taxpayers, we really need to challenge the way we build. And so right now in the city of Indio, we're looking at how do we modernize sustainable construction that can save us in construction costs and also in energy costs. You know, modernizing old ways of building like adobe and straw house homes so we can have sustainable homes that save us on energy in the long term. When it comes to healthcare, how do we identify those funding sources where, you know, our healthcare, we all pay a lot in healthcare dollars, but is that going to workers and direct services? So I'd like to place regulations, work with other state assembly members to make sure that our healthcare dollars are making their way down to workers and direct services. Another huge part of bringing that economic benefit and easing the economic burden on our communities is providing support for small businesses. How do we streamline these processes, permitting processes, to make sure that people are able to easily start a small business, whether it's a second job, whether they're opening up a new restaurant, and we've done that very successfully in the city of Indio, which is why we're one of the fastest growing communities in Southern California. We share the same state laws as everybody, but we've been able to provide the right customer service to bring in business and have people have the confidence in us to invest into our community. And with that, you know, that comes also with the responsibility of managing our funds well. We have a $20 billion deficit right now at the state level. When we look at, you know, in the past 7 years in the city of Indio, I've helped increase our budget from $179 million to $459 million, 165% increase in the past 7 years. And that's been through stable leadership and to making the right investments into our infrastructure, into our public safety, into our education, and into career training to make sure that everybody is able to have an opportunity to pay their bills and be able to thrive with our growing economy there in the city of Indio. And that's the kind of energy that I hope to bring to the state level in supporting our small businesses, finding affordable solutions to healthcare and housing, and then making those strategic investments to lighten the burden on our communities by investing into infrastructure and education. Thank you.
Switching batteries.
It's a long report. All right, we're good to go.
Ready? Okay. We're starting with Tomas Oliva, and then we will continue as we rotate. Education and workforce development. Many people, especially young people in Imperial County, feel they must leave the valley to find opportunity. What role should the state play in strengthening our educational pipeline from K-12 to community colleges and workforce training so that students can build careers here at home?
As I mentioned in my opener, I feel like I'm one of those examples of individuals that had to leave Imperial County in order to achieve their educational goals, and thankfully I was able to come back. But one thing that many people tend to forget is that the educational institutions that we have here in the 36th district, whether it be College of the Desert, whether it be the Palm Desert, CSU, San Bernardino campus in the vicinity of the 36th district, San Diego State University, Imperial Valley College, all of these institutions, Palo Verde, right? They get their money from the state, right? And a lot of it is not just from the tuition from the students, but they get a lot of investment, and what they're able to provide to the students is a partnership with the state. And so we need someone that is going to go to Sacramento, that is going to advocate for the right amount of allocation for the funding that reflects the jobs that we need, the educational opportunities that our students are looking for, that is able to expand, right, online learning, that is able to expand on ESL learning for our English speakers or Spanish speakers that want us to learn a different language. I think it's also has to do with a lot of professionals that live in this district that are professionals and hold certifications in other countries, but are not able to practice their career here. So a lot of the work here is to be able to get, like for example, a dentist from Mexicali, to be able to have access and streamline and ability for them to pass the credentialing and the licensing for them to be able to be working professionals here as well. And so what I think was necessary is, because we're very dependent on extension campuses and community colleges, it's to ensure that, as mentioned, when the state is faced with a deficit, the first place they go to try to balance that is not to make cuts in this district, to not suggest cuts to the educational institutions in this district that already depend on, and if anything, deserve more investment for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. We're looking at our questions that we need to ask. Okay. Oscar?
All right, thank you. Yeah, I think one critical part right now is providing transparency in our school budgets so that we can allow the community to have meaningful input into the way that our funds are being spent in our communities. One thing that I would really like to see is investing into our teachers and our school infrastructure, especially our starting wages for teachers. I actually, during COVID, was a substitute teacher in my community, and I wanted to be a full-time teacher, but I would not have been able to pay my bills if I would have taken that job. So I could not be a teacher as much as I wanted to teach in my community. And so raising those starting wages to open up for more talent to come into our schools and be able to teach our kids is going to be really important for me. Lowering class sizes, especially in low-income communities, is extremely important. You know, when I went to Stanford University, I was coming out of a high school where we had 45 kids per class. And in having conversations with other students, I realized a lot of them had 12 kids per class, 15 kids per class, 20 kids per class, right? And so they weren't just born smarter than us, right? They had the resources to provide the right attention to our students and spend time with our students. One concern right now, the data coming out from some of our psychology researchers, is that the screen time in classes is actually worsening the learning rate for our kids. Even if it's a laptop provided by your school, it's not good for our kids to be on screens all day. So we need to go backwards a little bit and make sure we're getting that one-on-one time with teachers and tutors and having a personal connection with our students to make sure they're having a healthy relationship with their peers and with their teachers. I really want to also support, online schools, especially there's a lot of single parents out there or parents that are taking second jobs, and making that available to them, affordable online schools and trainings to make sure that they're also able to get ahead and build better careers for themselves. Building strong partnerships with our schools, our industries, and our local governments. Right now at the College of the Desert, we just built 3 new buildings in our downtown. One of them is a child care facility that provides affordable child care for our community while students are learning how to be good child care providers right there, right in our downtown. We're also bringing in students from our College of the Desert into our city internships and building them up to be to have careers in planning and engineering and other jobs at the city level. So creating those strong partnerships so that people know that they're going to have opportunities when they get out of the classroom. The last part that I'll mention is having a fair tax structure to make sure that everybody is paying their fair share in the state of California, so that we can have the funds to invest into our education system is something that I will also prioritize at the state level. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I feel like education opens many doors. I'm a product of the school system here locally. I went to the local elementary, the high school, and also here at IBC. I'm a product of IBC, and I'm proud of that. I went and received my associates of nursing from IBC, and then went on to get a bachelor's. And then, yes, there was not that opportunity for higher education in regards to nursing, so I had to go elsewhere. And I think that's the part that's missing here in this county, in this district. We do have opportunities, but we need to open those doors for our students. That starts with investing in our schools, our teachers, but also expanding the career technical education, apprenticeships, and also partnerships with our local industries. Not every student's path looks the same. I did the brick and mortar school. We need to invest also to make sure that we're looking at colleges, careers, different trades that are available in apprenticeships, because not everybody wants to do the 4-year college, and I think it's important. My dad was in farming growing up until I was 13 years of age, and that farming outfit quit. He worked for Caltrans after that and was part of a union, the operating engineers union there. And he had never had a college degree. He went to high school. My brother, the same thing. We're products of this valley, and we're products of the trades that they learned, and are grateful for that, because it allowed them, my father, to buy our first home, have a very stable middle class income, and be comfortable as a family. My brother too, he's a mechanic for heavy duty equipment, and he's able to provide for his family. And I think it's important that we look at the opportunities here locally. Like I mentioned, not everybody goes to a 4-year college and so forth, so we need to look at investing in our local trades. We need to invest in apprenticeships. I think it's very important. In addition to that, we need to support the education and retraining programs for those who are coming out, maybe for a second career, or maybe they were taking care of their babies at home, or their dad's taking care of the kids at home. And so we need to offer those opportunities for retraining for our individuals and our adults who want to work. Lastly, we need to invest in education, workforce, and development, not just preparing individuals, but also strengthening the region. It's very important that when we look at the state legislator and being in the assembly, I want to make sure that we're not looking to cut the fat, so to speak, of our schools. More than ever, we need our schools to be fully funded. More than ever, we need smaller classroom sizes. We need those opportunities that these bigger cities have here in the Imperial Valley. And so I will work for that at the state level. Thank you.
Thank you, Ida. And that concludes our questions. We'll be going to Oscar, and I see we have our timer reset, and we're gonna be addressing the topic of representation for Imperial County. All right, here it goes. Imperial County is often described as the Valley of the Forgotten, where major policy decisions are made far away from the communities most affected by them. How will you ensure that Imperial County has a stronger voice in Sacramento and receives the investment we deserve? You have 3 minutes.
Yes, so the way that I would handle this is making sure that my team is out here listening to the Imperial Valley. You will be the ones that lead the conversation for us in Sacramento, right? And I'll show you a couple of examples of how we've been doing that in the city of Indio. And the first thing that we do when we're tackling an issue in our community is go to the workers who are on the ground experiencing the issues that we're talking about, and go to community organizers and make sure that we're listening to those organizers before we ever propose any policy at the city level. And that's what I look forward to doing at the state level. When there's issues in agriculture, coming out here and listening to our farmers, listening to our workers, and making sure that we're prioritizing whatever the needs they have are in this community in Sacramento. Another example I'll give you is right now, we're having a huge issue on immigration rates in the city of Indio and in the Coachella Valley. And so there's a lot of times that people propose certain things that could politically, be beneficial for myself and get a lot of attention. But before we ever propose anything, we go to our community organizers, the nonprofits that work directly with these immigrants, and we learn from them, and we listen to them, and we find out what their priorities are and how we can best propose policies that'll keep those communities safe and advance the goals that the community organizers have. And so that's why you see also that we have a lot of union support right now. We have 23 unions that are backing us at this moment, and that's because we've been talking to them for the past almost year when we started this campaign in May, and making sure that we're prioritizing the issues that our workers are facing in their workplaces and in their communities, whether that's in the Imperial Valley or the Coachella Valley. We have the support of both labor councils, the San Diego and Imperial Counties Labor Council and the Inland Empire Labor Council, as well as the State Labor Federation of Unions. And that's because we have been listening to that and building our platform in a way that reflects the needs of the workers in this region. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. Representation isn't just holding a seat. We've seen that this past week. It's about showing up, it's about listening, it's about being present for the people that you serve, the people that elected you. Too often communities like ours feel overlooked. They're not brought into the conversations until the decisions have been made. That time has to change. I believe in accountability starts with transparency, making sure the public, the people that you represent, know what's being proposed, what impacts it might have on the community. I think I've proven myself as mayor of the city of Imperial. We are representing our community and suing the county because we are listening and we are advocating for our residents. No one else up here can say that. I am doing that, and I will stand on that hill and die on that hill if that is the case. But I believe in representing our constituents and our residents, and I will do that at a state level as well. As mayor, I made it a priority to stay connected to our community, to hear directly from our residents. That's the mindset that I bring to this public office. I am being elected by the people who I choose to serve, and I want to serve this community. I have a servant nature heart. Being a nurse, I take care of patients every day. I know how to problem solve, and I know how to work through things, and I can do the same exact thing at the state level. I will advocate for policies that reflect our community's needs and not just outside pressures. I will always be honest, even when the conversations are difficult. Not a lot of people can say that. I will not quit on this. I will be a representative at the assembly level for the District 36. Thank you.
In order to have the strongest advocacy for Imperial County, you gotta ask yourself, who knows the county the best? Right? Who has spent the last 10, 15, 20 years getting to know the unique concerns of every corner of this county? Right? For the last 10, 15 years, I've worked with the Southern California Association of Governments, working with councils throughout the entire valley, even in the Coachella Valley, to addressing land use, conservation, wildlife habitat conservation, zoning, transit and transportation projects, right? Whether it's the slowing housing development in both El Centro and Calexico because they're deemed to be larger communities and they don't benefit from USDA, low-income loans from the federal government. That's why you see a lot of development in Imperial, and Brawley, Heber, and other communities. It's understanding those uniquenesses. The New River concerns in Calexico, and for the people who live adjacent to the New River, who still are asking for a project that actively cleans the water that they live next to. It's about infrastructure and sidewalk issues in Heber, that they're just barely getting to see built in their communities. It's about the air quality issues that exist in Salton City and the students and the children that go home with bloody noses because they're being exposed to PM10 and PM2.5 from the receding shoreline of the Salton Sea. It's about the data center concerns that exist in the city of Imperial and whether or not the state is going to require those types of projects to be subject to CEQA, which, by the way, I'm very much against the data center project, data centers in general, for the record. It's also a lack of access to resources for the Quechan tribe, for Winter Haven, right? The lack of investment in roads and paved roads for Sili, for Ocotillo, right? I've spent years working with 2 members of Congress overseeing the issues related to traffic congestion in Calexico because of cross-border traffic. So I mention all of these things to share with you that my time having worked in government was to collect all of those stories and all of those concerns so that I could be the best person to advocate for you in Sacramento, given the opportunity to be in the room and fight for the very issues that you have to live with. And I believe I'm the best person to bring our story, to bring our struggle, and fight for the resources that we need back here so you can have a better quality of life. Thank you.
Prepared questions that both the Central Committee and the Democratic United Club put together. We are now going to be entertaining questions that we have received from the audience. And I do want to say, by the way, I'm really impressed with the candidates and their preparedness, whether it was this group or the previous group, because nobody had our questions. We kept them secret, and they all seem to respond rather well. Yes. With these general questions, Kim from Brawley says, ¿en qué van a apoyar a los trabajadores del campo? Por favor, contesten en español. ¿Es posible? Are all of you bilingual?
I'm more medical Spanish, I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. Well, I'm a pocha, so I understand, and I think in the valley we can just do the best you can and answer your question in English and then, whoops. As a courtesy to Kim from Brawley, if you can answer your question in English and then in Spanish. The first question starts with Isamay Pasillas from El Centro. What is your stance on current community advocacy on data centers, and how do you plan on supporting the community? Policies, be specific. So, who starts with the round as we've been rotating? Who's next on the rotation? Oscar?
And wait,
Oh, I'm sorry. Ida?
So me first?
You first.
So I apologize that I'm not going to be able to answer you specifically in Spanish because I know medical Spanish and my family has lived here for generations and did not learn Spanish. My mom was a pocho too, sorry about that. And her mom, who grew up in Pomona, which they prohibited them from speaking Spanish. But regarding data centers, I am suing the county regarding the data center. As mayor and as a council, we thought it was important to be a representative of our community and to hear them out, not just this rhetoric of yeah, which is happening, at our Board of Supervisor level. We are actively having legal counsel pursue any way we can to stop this and to do the proper channels if ever something like this was ever going to be built, but not next to our schools, not next to our homes. We know that we need infrastructure. We know that we need data centers at some point. However, we need to do it in a process that's environmentally protecting our residents.
That was really short.
Next.
So
You
it's in
read the
English
question
and in
again?
Spanish. Yes, please.
Yes. What is your stance on current community advocacy on data centers, and how do you plan on supporting the community? Policy, be specific.
sobre los esfuerzos de los individuos o las organizaciones que están oponiendo el centro de datos. Yo apoyo el esfuerzo que ustedes hacen en asegurar que primeramente el condado, los electos están aquí para mejorar sus vidas y no para ponerlos en riesgo. Entonces yo sí apoyo los esfuerzos que quieren parar el centro de datos, específicamente porque no están haciendo el reporte de impacto del ambiente. Eso primeramente, si soy elegido, quisiera yo apoyar los esfuerzos y las propuestas de ley que requieren que los centros de datos sean parte de los reportes del impacto al ambiente. Esa sería una póliza específicamente y apoyo los esfuerzos en hablar en frente de los diputados del condado, pedirles que votan no y eso es lo que yo he hecho. Gracias.
Since that was in Spanish, would you please repeat it in English for the rest of the crowd?
I'll be as brief as possible. I fully support the opposition of the groups and individuals that oppose the data center. If elected, I'd be supporting policy that would require those types of projects to be subject to CEQA and have an environmental impact report. Things that I would do have been to reach out and very publicly take a stance against the data centers in front of the County Board of Supervisors, which I've done. Is that a fair summary?
Oscar?
What happened to the farm worker question?
Yeah, so we kind of remixed them a little bit.
Because I'm a pocha, I misread it.
Oh, okay.
So it's going to come back.
Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So, data center policy, be specific.
Sí, cuando estamos hablando sobre los centros de datos, pues tenemos que asegurar que la comunidad sabe en qué situación estamos con el agua, ¿verdad? Con el río de Colorado y con la situación que tenemos sobre el cambio climático y traer la educación para que la gente pueda entender qué son los impactos que van a traer estos centros de datos y qué son las oportunidades que también puede traer, ¿verdad? Porque hay muchas comunidades como Santa Clara que ha aprobado 57 de estos centros, pero también la diferencia en que en esa área no se usa demasiada agua porque no ocupan el agua hasta que está pasado de 90 grados. Y aquí estamos pasados de 90 grados casi mitad del año, ¿verdad? Entonces, traer esa educación para ayudar a la comunidad que haga sus decisiones locales, pero darle el poder a la comunidad aquí también a hacer esas decisiones para sí mismos. Y nosotros, en el nivel del Estado, traer las regulaciones para asegurarnos que cada gobierno local está siguiendo las leyes del medio ambiente y las leyes que para tener que ser responsables con los recursos naturales también.
And if you
In
could do the
English?
English, please.
Yeah, sure. I think we need to make sure that our community knows the current situation that we're in with the shortages of water at the Colorado River and the climate change impacts that are coming in the future. And it's important for us to bring down that education so that people understand what is the real impacts that can come from these data centers coming into our communities, but also give them the power, right? There are opportunities in data centers, right? Santa Clara is a very wealthy community, has 57 data centers. But over there, the water is much less used because they're in a much cooler climate where they don't need evaporative cooling until you're over 90 degrees. In Imperial Valley, that would be more than half the year. And so we would see a much heavier water use. But understanding these details and providing this education to the community so that they can be empowered and make their decisions locally with their elected officials. And at the state level, providing the right regulations to make sure that local governments are following environmental regulations and also planning sustainably for the natural resources in their communities.
Alrighty, thank you for that. We're going to move on to our next question. This question is from Fernanda. She's from Westmoreland, and the question, general question, so each of you will get to answer. Aida kicked us off last, so Tomas will kick off these sets of responses. It's with the topic of lithium. Do you think the programmatic environmental impact report addresses community concerns regarding the environment?
Before I answer, sorry, was this required to be in Spanish and in English too? Or
Yes, so only English, y si nos disculpamos, para la próxima nos vamos a prevenir mejor para que haya servicios de thank you, de traslación en español. También Pocho aquí a mucha honra, pero sí, nos disculpamos. pero las respuestas van a seguir en inglés para ser justos con los candidatos. Do you need me to repeat the question? Or
No,
you
I
got
got it, thank you. I
Thanks.
just wanted to clarify that one little detail. Okay, so I believe that the environmental impact report for Lithium Valley raises a lot of concerns and it addresses, highlights for us the amount of water that's going to be used for Lithium Valley. And I think that a lot of the focus here is on the potential revenue and the potential impact that it's going to have to not only Nyland and Calipatria, but the benefit and where that's going to be doled out. When we were told about potential revenues that were going to be made for Lithium Valley, we were told that that money was going to be reinvested into the communities closest to where Lithium Valley exists. However, somewhere down the line that was shifted out now to be proportionate to population. So what that means is we're going to tap lithium and we're going to draw up brine and we're going to have all of this industrial impact in the north end. But the money is expected to go to populous communities like El Centro and others, and I don't support that.
Alrighty, as soon as the timer resets, Oscar?
Sure. I think some of the details that are still needed in those environmental impact reports is, for instance, where is that water going to come from? Right? Is it from the 97% of agricultural water use, or from the 3% of community use that's being used from families throughout the Imperial Valley? Right? Other issues there are how are we going to provide that power? And then when you get into lithium and battery production, we also need to be very careful there in regulating any impacts to our water and our soil. Some studies that I've seen is that there's certain chemicals that come from battery production that are still not tracked by any government within our country. And so making sure that we understand the details of the environmental impacts that are coming with these types of production, not that we should keep it out, but that we need to be very careful in how we regulate it to make sure that we're tracking any impacts that could come from that and make sure that those companies are addressing those impacts.
And it goes first to Ida. With healthcare at its lowest point imaginable in Imperial Valley, what is your specific plan to make sure that no hospital closures happen in Imperial Valley?
So, I've been in healthcare since the age of 19. I've worked in emergency rooms and intensive care units. I heard we need higher reimbursement rates. We have a lot of people who are uninsured here locally. We need people to make sure that they are insured so that those costs aren't spread to the rest of us who have to make up the difference when people are uninsured. I want to make it clear, we need healthcare here first. We need quality healthcare first. We need to make sure that these two hospitals under the current legislation stay together, improve, and give us the resources and the skilled nursing, the skilled specialties here locally so that we do not have to drive an hour and a half to seek healthcare. Palo Verde was this close to closing. That is people's lives. That is people's lives on the line if they have to drive more than an hour and a half. So I will do everything in my power to make sure that our hospitals are funded and help with the reimbursement rates locally. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll rotate Tomas and then Oscar.
Okay, so when mentioned about raising reimbursement rates, that's because 85% of patients that go to a hospital, specifically like El Centro Regional Medical, are either Medi-Cal or Medicare insured. And so when you have those public insurances that are reimbursing hospitals for cents to the dollar, that is why it's important to have a higher reimbursement rate for those, because then what happens is the private insurers are basically subsidizing and maintaining the entire hospital. That is not sustainable. A second policy point would be, I would want to make sure that we advocate for the distressed hospital loan program. The $58 million that both hospitals got here go from a loan to a grant. The last one is to create an incentive program for medical schools to be able to send their medical students here to practice and to finish their residency here so that they can be located here and hopefully continue their career here in Imperial County to be able to bring specialty care. Thank you.
So they can fall in love with Imperial Valley, right?
Exactly,
And stay
right.
forever. Oscar?
Yeah, I think it's unacceptable to see how billions of dollars of our healthcare funds are going to executive pays, they're going to corporations, they're going to insurance companies, when that money could be going to direct services for our community in terms of hospitals, in terms of healthcare workers. And so I would make sure that we're providing strong regulations to stop the privatization of our healthcare system and make sure that our healthcare dollars are actually going to direct services. I was actually one of the few elected officials that fought the privatization of the Desert Regional Hospital in the Coachella Valley, with the nurses taking the lead on that, because they were able to see how money was being mismanaged by these corporations and not leading to better service for our community members. And so I would work with our healthcare workers, our nurses at the state level, to make sure that we're providing those strong regulations and make sure that we're actually investing those funds into our healthcare system.
Thank you. Kim has asked me for Brawley to please read the question again, and if you could all answer. She's got her translator, so she welcomes you to please answer the question in English, okay? The question is, how do you plan to support farm workers in Imperial County? Okay, I will read the question again in Spanish. ¿En qué van a apoyar los trabajadores del campo? Shall we start with Tomas, Oliva?
I answered the first. Did I answer?
Would you re-answer it again, please?
Sure.
In English, in English. It's because it's been requested.
Okay. Well, I think what's going to be important for our farm workers is to ensure that we have enforcement of their workplace conditions. I know that whether it's access to water, access to shade, ensuring rates and ensuring their rights is something that I think that lacks. I also think that their ability to access services, healthcare, has been attacked in our state and in our country. Specifically, the cuts to Medicaid that they feel the most, the cuts to Planned Parenthood that many of them feel the most, and cuts to the food bank that they probably would be impacted the most. And so I think advocating for protections of their access to healthcare, enforcement of their workplace conditions and their rights, and ensuring that they are paid their time and a half when they're overworked is a good start.
Thank you. Oscar?
Yeah, I think, you know, the biggest threat right now to our farm workers is the violation of human rights for our immigrant families. And so I would definitely fight to make sure that we're protecting their human rights and make sure that our families are not ending up in those detention centers that are providing a really cruel treatment to our families. Second, I would focus on workers' rights. A lot of times farm workers have been left behind at our state when it comes to workers' rights. And so making sure that they're protected the same way that any other union, right? I think farm workers and domestic workers have too often been left behind in those negotiations. And third, I would say providing economic mobility for our farm workers, making sure they have a pathway to citizenship, making sure they have access to health care, and making sure that they have access to educational opportunities so that they can move up the ladder and get better jobs and be able to better provide for their families. Thank you.
Ida?
My grandparents, my parents, my father all worked the fields at some point in their life so that I can have better opportunities. We need to protect the rights of our farm workers. We need to make sure that they have the breaks, the funding that's needed, making sure that we bring healthcare to them. One thing that I appreciated was the mobile health services in the Coachella Valley that come out and do mammograms, do pap smears where the people are. That is very important. Many people are scared to go out. Many people are scared to go to, doctor's offices for fear of ICE picking them up. We need to come to where the people are. We need to make sure that we are making every effort available to be where our farm workers are, protecting those rights, making sure they have shade and water and being paid and not abused on the job. And so I would fully support all legislation that goes forward at the state level to protect our farm workers. Thank you.
Alrighty, and that concludes the Q&A portion of our forum. And we're going to go ahead and transition here into our closing statements. You will have 2 minutes each. Go whenever you're ready, Ida. You have the floor, and we do just remind you all, please hold the applause until they're all done speaking, and then you can go reasonably wild.
Ready? All right. Thank you to everybody who showed up tonight, because this matters. Let me be clear, our community deserves more than talk. We deserve action. We deserve leadership that doesn't wait, doesn't make excuses, and doesn't forget who they work for. I'm running because I've had enough of seeing families struggle with decisions. I'm also had enough of watching opportunities pass us by. We need to make sure that this election season we're representing ourselves and we're electing a person who will represent our whole entire county and community. This is exactly the kind of leadership I will bring. We need to invest in real economic growth that creates jobs here locally, not somewhere else. We also need to back our law enforcement and first responders and families as well, so that we feel safe in our neighborhoods. We also need to fight for opportunities so our kids can build a future here and not have to leave to find work elsewhere. You know, my campaign is very homegrown. I'm very blessed to be endorsed by several members, including the Congressman, Dr. Ortiz, also our Speaker, Robert Rivas, the California Women's Democratic Caucus, and many assembly members who believe that I am the best person to help win back this seat. We have a Republican who's just a placeholder right now. He's not doing much, his voting record is terrible, and he likes to bring certificates, but he doesn't bring any funding with the certificates. I have proven that I can bring the funding at the federal level. I got $1.5 million for parks the other day, and I have another $3 million set to come in. I know how to work across the aisle, and I will be that representative in the state level. I'm Ida Obeso-Martinez, and I want to be your next Assembly District 36 member, so thank you so much for this opportunity, and I look forward to hearing from you and working for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tomas.
Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate the opportunity to speak in front of you, and I'm honestly just going to kind of go off the cuff here and just say that I think all of us are extremely frustrated at the current circumstance of what we have to live in, whether it's the federal government, the state government, just attacking us, whether it's ICE, whether it's high gas prices, whether it's a war that we didn't ask for. We're all here having to pay the consequences of what that does for all of us. And what it means is, at the end of the day, we're paying higher energy rates. We're questioning whether or not there's enough water for all of us to grow. There's issues with housing development throughout the Imperial County. And the question is why, right? We talked about how students have to leave in order to achieve their educational goals. And I'm a product of that same frustration. Like I mentioned in my opener, I live here with you and I breathe the same air, I drink the same water, I went to the same schools as you all. And the truth of the matter is that the world out there is concerned about how they live, and we need a fighter. We need a loud voice in Sacramento, because you're going to be surrounded in a room full of people that are also advocating for their communities. And the question here is, not only do we need someone that's going to be Jeff in November, because as we mentioned, he does nothing for us and has not since he got into office. But now it's who's going to go to Sacramento and who can navigate that space to make sure that we have the tools that we need to achieve our best dream for our families and ourselves. And I'm here to tell you that I believe that I am that person, because I was raised here and grew up with you, and I face the same issues that you all do. I also have a record of being in public office, and I brought a lot of money and a lot of jobs and a lot of housing development for the city of El Centro. And the reason why I'm running is because I want to bring that same success for the entire district. Again, my name is Tomas Oliva, and I'd love to serve you in Sacramento. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. If you look at my record in the Coachella Valley, you'll see that I've always had a strong focus on helping the working families in our community and making sure that everyone has a voice in our local government. That includes being the loudest elected official in the region on the protection of human rights for our immigrant families. Also, 2 weeks ago, filing a petition to the California Supreme Court to get back our Riverside County ballots that were illegally seized by Sheriff Chad Bianco. And just last week, providing the first restriction on short-term rentals in a new housing development, ensuring that these new homes will go to families and will never turn into full-time vacation rentals. I believe that a history of bold leadership for our community is why we have gained so much support in this state assembly campaign, including endorsements from state senators Sabrina Cervantes, Bob Archuleta, Jessia Reguin, and Lola Smallwood-Cuevas, Assembly members Mark Gonzalez, Corey Jackson, Alex Lee, and Robert Garcia, 23 workers unions, including the United Domestic Workers, the California Teachers Association, the United Nurses Association of California, IBEW 569, both local labor councils, and our statewide labor federation. We are funded by community members, small business, and organized workers. We have the broadest support of any campaign in this race, and we hope that you will join us in this worker-led movement to take back the seat in Sacramento and bring new, innovative, community-centered leadership for our region. Again, my name's Oscar Ortiz. I'm a council member in the city of Indio, and I hope to have your support in my race for state assembly. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much to all of the candidates. Please give it up for the candidates. All right. We want to thank our candidates for being out here tonight, but we also want to thank each and every one of you in this room for showing up and for asking questions and taking this seriously.